Okay, zoning board, you are live. You're recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the first meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals in 2026. We wish everyone a happy new year. I'd also like to welcome our newest member, Jose Arandia, who is joining us tonight for the first time. Welcome, Jose. Welcome. Kevin Gotti is going to be postponed at the request of their agent, so we'll begin with Henry Proto, and I'll read the notice into the record. Description is the modification of a 2016 Zoning Board of Appeals approval to allow an as-built masonry staircase and stone wall to remain, to construct fencing, to remove a gravel patio, and implement a revegetation within 100 feet of a wetland. A modification of the Zoning Board Natural Resource Special Permit and variances determination filed November 2nd, 2016, an NRSP pursuant to 255-420, and additional variances of 47 feet, 50 feet, and 15 feet are needed from 255-430 to allow a masonry staircase and stone wall to remain 53 and 50 feet from freshwater wetlands, and to construct a fence 85 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100 feet is required. Zoning district is B residence, Zone X flood zone, secret class is type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits and notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Vice Chairman Johan, do we have a field inspection?
We do. Thank you, Madam Chair. You'll see here, this is the posting. It was posted out onto Montauk Highway. Next. I've taken a look from right at the posting. I'm looking down Main Street. As you come down the hill into town, I'm on the east end of town. Next. I'm going to look up the other way now, and I'm going to see I'm looking out towards the lighthouse. Next. Almost directly across, just slightly to the east of this house, is the community church right there. And a few steps down is St. Teresa's Catholic Church. So this is that little corner that people are familiar with, if you know Montauk. Next. I walk down. This is a house that'll come into conversation. This is the next nearest neighbor. That's off his property, that's off the property, the Proto property. So this is going to be slightly down the hill. We'll talk about it next. So just looking back up at that, from that spot, that's the house in discussion. Hard to see, we can skip it, but just show you that it's up the hill from the one there. Here I'm coming up the driveway. This is the house. This is that common driveway, two properties, I think, in common ownership. This is the house we'll be discussing today, the staircase off to the right. Next. Here we are now. I've walked over to the staircase. So now this is the north side of the house. This is the masonry staircase that's been noticed and it's going to be in discussion. You can see some of the stone that's going to morph into a discussion of the stone walls. You can see a little bit behind the wall that's there now. We're going to walk up this staircase and take a look. Next. And I'm going to look at it straight on. So you get an idea, again, stones to my right, retaining wall immediately at my right, and then the stairs and the planters as you make your way up on the north side of the residence. Next. No, I'm up here as I'm coming up. I just taking a look at where this flattened area is. As I've turned my way around at the bottom of the stairs, there's a second residence that's off to the east, and this is the beginning of a series of stones that margin the driveway at this point. Next. I'm halfway up, looking down, give you an idea of the size and scope of the project here that's involved in the staircase and the planters that are associated with it. Next. And I'm going to follow that stone wall. I see stones that are lined up in a gravel area. I know the snow now blocks the view of the gravel, but that's all gravel beneath the snow. We're going to continue on looking at the wall. You can see it start to grow in size as it goes back and retains a bit of berm. Next. Down there towards the rear of this now, and I'm kind of looking down. Again, you can see the gravel now through the snow, and it's going to continue on for a bit. Next. Now we've got a pretty good idea of the gravel area. Again, it will be discussed by the representative tonight. This gravel goes down. You can see the tops of a stone wall and a bit of the roof of the house below as you're looking down the hill. Next. Now I've gone off, now we're going to discuss the 2016 approval of this at some point, and one of the things that was approved at that time is that concrete retaining wall that was poured there to facilitate not only building the house, but to providing a platform for septic. Next. Again, we can skip this, just looking down from that spot to give an idea, looking down from where we are. Next. Now, this is the part where that series of stones turns into more of a retaining wall. We have these larger boulders. They continue on. You can see in the distance the poured concrete wall, but I've backed myself off further to the north, and now you see there's a series of stones. There's a fence to our right, delineating, keeping, the fence in the property, but right to the left, those stones are something that'll be part of our discussion. Next. Again, I've gone down the other end to show you large stones. They continue on down. Not important what goes on past this point, but next. And then I'm turning around from here, stone to my right, the retaining wall above, which really has something to do with the berm that you see up above and part of the natural topography. Next. And that's from that spot, just to give you an idea what the house is. I'm standing on the wall, looking at the house, gravel in front of me. Gravel continues on along the side of the house. Next. And now when I'm here, just so you know, walking back down, that's the second house. This is the house that actually is closest to the residence, but this is in common ownership, and I'm looking to the east. Next. Just wanted to show you that this gravel area and the wall, this is all part of our discussion. Next. This, by the way, is a stone wall that might be referenced. It was referenced in a previous hearing at one point. There was in the 2016 approval, an approval for a stone staircase, not wall, staircase to approach the front of the house. This was a previously approved and legal staircase, but this is not the one in discussion tonight. Next. And that's from there, just looking back down from the front door of the house. This is all a legal part of what's on the property. This is part of the 2016 approval. Next. That's it. Thank you.
Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer on behalf of the applicant, Henry Proto. Henry would like to be here tonight, but he had an engagement at Byland, so unfortunately he can't be here. Before I start off, though, I have to say, Madam Chairwoman, it's been a long time. You've got a nurse. You sure you want this? You sure you want this job?
I am.
Okay. I do have some.
It's been a long road with us.
It's been a long road. I do have some photos I'll hand out. The one benefit, because
Five when I started.
remember you had photos are very good, but mine are without snow. No taxes.
Okay, thank you.
One more. Thank you.
Again, Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer on behalf of the applicant, Henry Proto. I first became involved in this project back in 2016. There had been a long battle, I guess you'd say, before I was involved between Henry and the planning department, primarily Brian Frank, really about the house size. And LPS was representing the applicant. I was brought in kind of at the last minute as the attorney. And I think the train sort of went off the tracks a little bit in 2016 because so much of the focus in 2016, which the board did approve the application, was on the size of the house, that not much attention was paid to details like how do you get to the back of the house? As the photographs show, the house is built into the side of a hill with a underneath garage that empties into the common parking area common driveway. And there are issues about how you get up and how you get around and behind the house. And a lot of that was left unresolved. And I would blame pretty much everyone involved in that, the applicant, the agents, the planning department, the zoning board. Nobody really focused on that. So much of the attention was paid to the size of the house and the siting of the house and so forth. So in 2021, so what happened was when the house was built, at some point Henry Proto realized, well, I have to be able to get up to the side of the house. You know, you've got an exit out there, you've got air conditioning compressors. I'll point out in a couple of photographs, there is a propane filler. There's a propane tank buried up with the fill tube up on that flat area where the gravel is. So Henry had engaged an outdoor landscaping firm from Amagansett. I'm going to not mention their name because I didn't deal with them directly, but according to Henry, they talked to the building department and said, they asked, can we put a stairway in where the stairs are? And the building department said, yeah, sure, you can do that. Well, when time came to apply for the C of O, the zoning board or the planning department, someone went and did an inspection and said, well, there's stairs there. They were never approved by the zoning board. Well, I was not consulted. So everything stopped. Lori Wiltshire made an application back to the board to try to legalize the stairs in 2021. That was denied. I made an application in 2022. That was denied. And if you read the 2022 denial, which is kind of why we're back here, is it leaves us in limbo. One of the other problems with the application was that the survey that was submitted to the board had this symbol that ran around everything from the west side of the property or on the north side and then all the way to the stairs that go down to the driveway with kind of these little, I don't know, little loaves of bread. And it was labeled stone wall or rock wall. Well, as we'll see from the photographs, and maybe I can show the photographs, I just want to show the different, there are at least 3 elements to the stone wall. So all right, let's start here. This is directly behind the house, north of, meaning behind from the Montauk Highway. As Member Joanne pointed out, all this is gravel. All the gravel is proposed to be removed. That's one of the points of mitigation in the application. See this right here? That's the propane tank. That's the propane entrance. The stairs, we'll see in a moment, are over there. Just advance to the next, show the stairs, I think it'd be the next one, right? Yep, okay, there we go. So when the propane deliveries are made, the propane tank parks down the parking lot, the guy takes his hose, walks up the stairs and goes to that propane tank. That's how he fills the propane tank. You take the stairs away, I'm not sure how he's gonna get there. He can't go around the house, this hose isn't that long. I guess he can clamber up a steep grassy slope, but you know, you really need to get access to that part of the house. And that was something that was not thought of at the time. Perhaps the owner should have gone back to the zoning board before installing them, dealt with it that way. That didn't happen. So we are where we are. Also along the left-hand side, I don't know that I would call this a stone wall, but again, on the survey, all the rocks were referred to as rock wall. So you can see the line of stones. Member Johan showed those as photographs too. And I guess we can pull away from that from there. Those stones are not stacked on top of it. They're just single line of stones. When you get to the northwest corner of the property, this is sort of a retaining wall. I guess to some extent it's now holding up some of the earth there. The area behind the wall is fully revegetated. The DEC wanted to limit the clearing boundary so they wouldn't go beyond that. The DEC had asked for a split rail fence. For whatever reason, Henry preferred the rock wall and ran that by the DEC. And the DEC, yeah, fine, that's the same thing. We're okay with that. So the DEC views that as a limiter on clearing. We're actually going to be revegetating along, not only removing the gravel, but there will be revegetation on the inner side from that rock wall. So clearing will no longer even extend up to the rock wall as we propose it. Okay, next photo, I think it's just more of that to show you that. Actually, no, go back. Is it one more? Well, okay, I think of two the same, but okay, you can go forward. And then, remember, Joanne has better photos than I do, I think, there. So the third element, yeah.
Which one are you looking?
Yes, now I'm going to go to the stones on the west side of the property. That's just another angle of those stones at the northwest corner. Yeah, so that's a good thing. And albeit with snow, Ed's photos actually showed a lot more of that rock wall there. So that is acting to some extent as a retaining wall. If those had to be, all the zoning board decisions said in 2022, it says we don't approve these things. Meaning that, I guess to get a C of O, you'd have to remove them. Remove the single line of rocks, remove the double line in the northwest corner that we saw in the preceding photograph, remove these rocks, all of them, some of them, not clear. Removing these rocks, and again, you saw the prior photos by member Johan, you probably would need a crane, which I assume you would have to park on the Montauk Highway road shoulder. I don't know how else you would get those rocks out of there. You would then destabilize the slope. I don't see any benefit to Kathy Beckman's property. I don't think there's a detriment right now, but whatever. Our proposal at the moment is to leave those stones as they are, not to disturb them. The gravel that you see there, not only would the gravel be removed, but as you can see, we have a landscaping plan kind of all around the edges of these rocks, all around to the north side of the property. That would be planted with bayberry. I think we proposed 39 bayberry bushes at 24 inches height, something like that. So that's the proposed mitigation, is to remove all the gravel. It's over 1,800 square feet of gravel would go away. We would replant some of the property. The total amount of replanting is approximately 638 square feet. A couple salient points to remember. The house as built is exactly as approved by the zoning board in 2016, and the clearing is exactly as approved by the zoning board in 2016. Proto has not gone beyond the allowed clearing limit, which went right to the edge of his property on this side, the west side. So he's always stayed within his allowed clearing limit. And now we actually would retract from that a little bit. Again, we would replant with bayberry approximately 638 square feet of area. So that's kind of it. I mean, I'm really asking for kind of what I view as a practical resolution of this. I think it makes most sense, least disturbance, to leave the stones there. They're all native stones. They all came from the property while it was being excavated. They're not harmful in any way to the wetlands. And the same can be said of the staircase. It doesn't harm the wetlands. It's about 50 feet from the wetland boundary. If you remove it, there is a chance that some of the runoff on the back of the property may go well. Can we go back to the staircase photo?
Yeah, I want to see that.
The first photo. You drop off the wetlands in question, which are good wetlands. There's a hollow, kettle off to the north of the property and a scenic easement. But this land begins to slope away almost right away. So if you remove those and you remove those and you remove those rocks, some of the runoff, I presume, is going to go down to the wetlands. So I don't see any benefit to removing that. It should have gotten permits the right way. It didn't. But leaving it now is basically harmless, and maybe better than harmless. In addition to which, we're offering mitigation in the sense of removal of all the gravel and replanting some of the property with native vegetation so it does not all become lawn. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, so I'll start with the staircase because obviously that's a major element here in our discussion. You did say that the building department gave the landscape contractor approval. Is that a written approval? That was a
I've
verbal
never seen a permit. It sounds to me like they were given a verbal okay as part of the building permit.
Yeah, so when you say I'm going to do a staircase, it could have been anything. It didn't have to be anything substantial as this. I mean, I don't know whoever was involved in the building department. It doesn't really matter for this discussion. We don't have it on paper. What we do have here, and we brought this up in previous hearings, is a substantial staircase that was done. Now, originally when it was brought to us, it was said that it might have been done sort of by mistake or without the knowledge of the owner. It's just a significant amount. When the first time we were here, that was said that this was done by the landscaper without full acknowledgement of the owner. We can go back and look for that. I think we'll find it in the hearing. But either way, this is a significant structure that was installed and done without zoning board approval, without coming back in front of the ZBA, after, as you pointed out, a long and lengthy discussion to get approval for the original house. Now, I know what you're saying. They mostly discussed the fact that it loomed over Main Street there, that it was so large. Does it have to be so large? Can we cut into the GFA? How is that platform on the road side going to affect things? And nobody was thinking about the north side. However, that still doesn't allow for someone to come in an area where they're not supposed to be going that way, because we know that we know that the approval at the time did not approve a staircase here. So if we're going to go back and talk about this staircase at all, a very sensitive site, a long-term approval, you've got to come back to us and talk about it. You can't go moving towards the wetlands without doing it. And to say that it was done somehow without full knowledge, it's hard for me to walk up that significant staircase and think that they weren't involved.
Let me tell you what I know. Okay, because they were hearing in 2021
right,
that Lori Wiltshire represented the applicant on.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
In 2022, I do know what happened. I don't think Henry was present, and I don't remember. I may have given what he told me, but I never told the zoning board that it was done without the owner's approval. What I remember this, I told the board what Henry told me, which is that his landscaper went to the building department, asked them if this is okay to put stairs in, and they were told yes.
Yeah.
So whatever came through me.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. But it's been in front of us. I was part of the Lori presentation, so I remember that. But the point anyway, it's a significant set of stairs. To talk about getting access to the rear of the house, to come in and look for a sympathetic decision from the board, knowing that this is a sensitive lot, would have made a lot of sense. It didn't happen, and we're dealing with what's here, I know. But we have to look at this as a very significant structure on the side of the house that was not planned to be. Let's go to the stones for a minute. As they've lined the driveway and come up around and they've all there and come through, yes, they margined something, and yes, they may fit in with, you said the DEC approved switching from the split rail fence to the stone as a deterrent to walking, casually expanding out into the wetlands, and that's fine. Here, when it's doing this, but as it goes down further, and we saw that it was a retaining wall for the natural grade, there's another conscious decision to change the topography on the property on the side of the house that's already been discussed as being sensitive. We go all the way to the back and we see those larger stones, which you point out correctly are very large and going to be hard to remove if they had to be removed. They've still been put in there to create a platform, because that's what they did. They created a large recreational space that was grass, went to gravel, now is hoping to go back to grass. I think that's correct. I think originally it was grass. And then it went to gravel and it's come back. It's been gravel since I've been out part
I
of it.
think he's had gravel. I think he put in gravel in connection with the
Beginning?
house.
Okay. I wasn't there at the 216, but I certainly was part of 21 and
It
22.
wasn't shown as gravel on the plans.
Yeah.
I'm saying when the house was built, I think from the initial, they had gravel behind the house.
So what the stone accomplishes, though, what the stone accomplishes there is a change in topography. So whether or not now we're going to look back and say that stone is not doing any damage to the wetlands, it's actually protecting the wetlands, that's a possible argument you can make. We can talk about that. But the fact is, on the side of the house where you did not get approvals for any additional work, stone was lined up, a platform was created to make more recreational space, I suppose, and a staircase was put in. Now, these are large ass, Rick, you know that. We're being asked to that, and what the town is going to get in return now is the 620 some feet or 660 feet of revegetation and switching from stone to grass, which is a conversation in its own. I got to tell you, there's not a lot different from the last time you stood in front of us when I look at this. It's not a lot different. I think your argument is that you've refashioned the argument to say that we take this out, it may cause future environmental damage with erosion. But as you know, and we all know, we've seen a lot of steep slopes that get well vegetated by us because we require the applicant to do that to protect the wetlands. So this was a possibility of 100 things could have happened. But what didn't happen was that the client, in your case, your client, our applicant, came to the zoning board and said, I'm going to make some changes on a sensitive side of the house. What do I have to do? That didn't happen. And now we're being asked to, I don't know if it's the right term is forgiveness, but certainly acceptance of two structures that go well beyond the 216 approval.
I will point out that where the stairway is in the front of the property, all that is within the allowed clearing area. So
Clean air, clearing
if the stairs come out, you're going to have presumably a lawn.
Now, we understand that the
going
impact
down
is
to the
great
parking
if these things come out. But I don't want to hog all the time. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at the January 20th, 21 finding and determination, which denied the allowance of the staircase and the rock wall. And in their factors to consider for a natural resource special permit, and I'm going to read it into the record, the board found that the proposed use may prevent the orderly and reasonable use of adjacent properties as alteration of the slopes and infringement on the wetlands will alter the drainage patterns and the location of the standing water necessary for the preservation of the vital freshwater wetlands. And also, the board found that the stone staircase and stone wall were massive structures and not suitable for the location and compatible with surroundings. So my question to you would be, Can you offer more mitigation, or obviously the drainage patterns on this site are difficult because of the slopes? And how would you control the drainage?
Well, I think, first of all, the original zoning board decision did not do anything to control drainage off to the north. We were allowed to clear to a certain point. Presumably, it would put a split rail fence at that boundary, so it wouldn't be further cleared. But other than that, if runoff ran off to the north, it runs off to the north. And although the zoning board wasn't aware that the applicant was going to put in gravel, you presumably thought it would be lawn. So you'd have lawn and you'd have runoff from the lawn. Some of it could go off into the wetlands. That was under the original approval.
Now, previous surveys showed dry wells around the property. And on the survey for June 19, 2025, I don't see any of the dry wells there at all.
There are dry wells in
Is that a
the
mistake on
parking
the part of
area.
the surveyor, or
There's the one.
do they no longer there? or-
Somebody drain.
Yeah, so the survey shows the one catch basin in the driveway. There's probably one on the neighboring property as well, the other part of the driveway. There is, according to my client, there is a catch basin. First of all, you'll see it on one of the photographs. There in the gravel area behind the house, there's a this, possibly, but he says that is drainage invert. And buried in the soil on the west side of the house, survey doesn't show it. The survey may not know it's there. But I actually think I got at one point an invoice from Ken Russell who installed it. So there is a dry well buried under the soil west of the house. So somewhere in here.
I believe that was established at a previous hearing.
Yeah, I think I brought that up.
Board members, any questions?
Well, the 2016 survey shows a dry well where the steps ended up being. You made a comment that there was no detriment to the neighbor to the south, to the west, Ms. Beckman's house. But she did testify at that modification hearing that she was getting flooded and moss and a lot of flooding.
She, as
since
I
that wall
recall,
went up.
yeah, I don't know if she exactly said she was getting flooded. She said that she was seeing more water and moss was growing on something. That's what she said. Her property is cleared pretty far up the slope. So she's got a slope on her. You can see some of the topo lines that go west of our property. She's got grass going up the slope. So it's not shocking that she's got some runoff coming down off her own land. I mean, I don't see any, when you're out there, I don't see any evidence that there's any significant runoff going off and remember, we will be going from gravel to, actually in that area, from gravel to a perimeter of native vegetation, bayberry, and that'll be let grow. So there'll be a natural buffer in this area, as well as in this area as well. If you look at the western and northern perimeter of the cleared area. So that should also help to attenuate some runoff.
Can I just clarify one thing? Thank you. So the original, and I was not a part of the board at the original or the past too, so I'm been coming up to speed on this. So the original 2016 approval for the house, the coverage, the total lot coverage that was approved based on that survey, I believe was 3,195 square feet. The existing now is 5,478 square feet. So I would imagine the difference is related to the gravel,
Yes.
the wall,
Yep.
the stairs.
Yep.
But I just still want to understand, maybe this will be something for the planner as well, but I'm still trying to understand the topography. How much topography change happened with the gravel? Was it different than, I guess, what was approved? I guess originally you said grass was going to be in that area. So has there been, in that extra coverage that's been created with these elements, was there further change to the topography?
I don't know if the gravel did anything to change the topography, but if you look at the 2016 survey and the current survey, fill was placed west of the house. If you were to actually build what was approved in the 2016 survey, you would have a long grassy slope running downhill from the back patio of the house to the Beckman property line. Now, remember, Johan is right. That gave the applicant sort of an outdoor platform, a yard, basically, they could use. But if you went back to what was actually approved, you'd have a long, steep, grassy slope going down to the property line. Very hard to control stormwater runoff at that point.
Right. And I guess we would like to follow up on the chairwoman's question again about potential for more mitigation. And remember, Johan sort of mentioned that maybe we should have a conversation about lawn, but.
Well, I mean, I think we'd
I'm
be
not quite
open
sure I heard the
to
answer.
most anything. The applicant obviously wants a yard.
Say that.
Some yards.
So what would you be open to?
I haven't really discussed it with Henry beyond what we proposed. I don't know. I mean, are you looking for less yard?
When you say yard, you've got a whole grassy yard on the south side where you have steps on the south side that go up to it from the parking area.
Well, the problem, the
That's
patio
not
is.
what's included in your.
There's a covered patio on the west side of the house. So that leads to like the usable part of the yard, which is over here.
It also leads to the south part.
Yeah, I mean, this becomes your usable yard area. I mean, you could play around.
There's a large area there on the south side.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we hear from the planning department and then come back, Rick, and see if we're open to something else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Good evening, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. So the structures that we've been discussing were constructed without the benefit of a modification or a proposal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They do require variances that are greater than any that were approved in the original determination. There have been 2 denials issued in 2021 and 2022 for the stone staircase, gravel, and wall. The current request involves keeping the stone staircase and wall, but removing the gravel area. Since there were 2 prior denials for the masonry and stone structures, the difference between this modification request and the previous application should be distinguishable to warrant the reconsideration. The work on the west side of the house resulted in a significant grade change, some of which were not depicted on the approved survey. We've kind of touched on that. The original 2016 application was probably lacking in detail to grade changes and runoff control. There are also various dry wells that were depicted on that approved survey. The detail or thought that went into the proposed locations of those dry wells. I couldn't really find a ton of information on that. I just know that they were on the approved survey. It would be helpful if we knew if those actually were installed. I think regardless, there was some grade changes that are different from what was approved. So even if those dry wells were installed in the exact locations that they were proposed, it may not be effective since the grade is actually a little bit different than what was originally proposed in 2016. The applicant should address the concerns the board previously raised about the improvements, especially the runoff pattern that has resulted from them. That was a predominant reason for the prior denials. The removal of the gravel area and the proposed re-veg are an improvement to the environmental conditions on the lot. And the board needs to determine whether these structures meet the variance standards in order to be approved. And they may want to consider a drainage plan to determine whether any additional runoff mitigation is needed. And I do think that that is a conversation really worth having, just because the slopes are pretty intense over here, and there has been prior testimony from an affected neighbor about runoff onto her property as a result of this development. And I can answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Madam Chairman, sorry. I'll get used to it in about 6 months. Yeah, one of the questions, and it was brought up effectively by Rick, is that the natural slope from the applicant's property down to the affected property that we have had testimony in the past about is naturally downhill. So it was always going to be that way, and there was always going to be some runoff. My question is, when the work that got done behind this house changed the topography. And I think that one of those stone drawings stone photos showed that we were retaining a bit of a natural element that was coming through. It's not necessarily true, and I can't say this, Rick, because I wasn't there in 2015, not necessarily true that it was directly a downward slope. That kind of ridge came through, it was cut out, we created a flat. I'm interested in the planning department's take on the fact that once you change the topography, this is part of the reason why we're not allowing you to go in an area that has not previously approved, but the kind of vetting that goes on in this process. So we go out here, the topography is now changed. Now we definitely do have a situation that we have got concern over. But in 2016, when the approval was made, the topography behind the house may not have been quite as critical. And the other thing about it is maybe that could have been planted out in native plants, which would have done a better job of filtering some of this water than a hardscape and the hards there. So that would be my question to the planning department. What is your take on the effect of having recontoured a sensitive piece of property? And I think one of the reasons why we've been sort of adamant about this is that property that took a lot to get approvals on because of those wetlands, and then on the most effective side, this work was done. So it's not minor from a point of view of long-term planning or how we look at things. So what goes on now, if in fact this were to move forward with some sort of approval, the gravel gets changed for grass, and tell us how that's an improvement to the situation.
I mean, I think an assessment of what the existing slopes were compared to what the as-built slopes are and, runoff, I'm not an engineer, but, engineers are capable of providing that information. I think that could be appropriate in this situation to at least understand how much has changed. We do have the information with the historical topography, so we are able to do some sort of comparison with that information. I think it's definitely something worth looking at, and it's hard to say exactly what mitigation is appropriate, I think, without those parameters.
Without the drainage plan.
So one other thing in line with that, then, Member Meering asked what kinds of additional mitigation would the applicant been willing to do? If we come on the inside of the wall where they're proposing grass, is that an area where it's appropriate to think of other types of vegetation to reduce the amount of runoff?
Yeah, I mean, woody vegetation would absolutely slow down runoff more than grass.
So one of the things that was brought up again by the applicant's representative is the last time they did not get recommendations from us, they just got a denial. And we're sitting here now talking to the planning department about what we think should go on in the future. One of the recommendations should be, in coordination with what our advice is, do we want to suggest that a certain amount of this has to be replanted on the east side of the stone wall? And is that going to be enough to begin to mitigate this whole situation?
I think, any increase in the woody vegetation, especially on the west side of the property, would be an improvement, but also I think identifying the most problematic areas in the existing topography and using that as a tool to determine where, the mitigation should be concentrated would be useful.
So I think we should leave the record open for a drainage plan and additional revegetation
And then
plan.
we get
And
that,
the
those,
survey with the contours on today's, and the as-built doesn't have them now.
and then may I ask, to the point that Morgan was making, sort of suggestion that getting an engineering view of really what's
Absolutely.
changed, how would we bring that into the record in terms, like leaving it open? Who would provide that for us?
Well, the applicant would have to
Yeah, okay.
provide that.
Right. So, and then can I just ask,
I want to, go ahead.
no,
one more, yeah.
one more thing.
Sure.
So I don't want to, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if this were to be denied, one would think that would require the removal of either the steps, the stone wall. So if the stone wall and its various parts were to be removed, what would have to, would there be a need, would there be an opportunity for a restoration, for lack of a better word? Or I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not familiar with a circumstance, where that was the case. I think usually a denial just suggests that those structures can't legally exist there.
I think that would
Is
be-
that the most out way to mitigate an issue? Usually the planning department would like to have some sort of involvement in any remediation in an environmentally sensitive area. I think that's a discussion worth having. I just don't know if we could reach that conclusion right now.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else, Morgan? Are you good?
No, but I'll be over here in
Okay,
case
thank
you have
you.
any more questions.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this application? Rick?
Online.
Oh, are there any callers, Matt?
Please stand by. I want to just do a double check of the phone lines. And this is Matt Chapman calling in from LTV, making sure that everything is good. And it is, and you have 0 additional callers. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Richard Whalen Filer again for the applicant. I think my client will hate this, but it might be best if we hear from the department, and rather than try to do this on paper, it might be best to have a continuation of the hearing, because having the back and forth on paper is almost impossible. A couple of things occur to me. One is I'd like to hear from the department in terms of the revegetation plan, and if there's anything else they would want. The second thing I would say is one of the simplest ways of further protecting against runoff would maybe to be install another drainage structure. Can we go back to the photograph again that was on the side? I want to show that little drainage structure behind the, yeah, this right here. That's kind of an odd grate. I assume that Henry Proto used that because it's surrounded by gravel and you can't do a recessed grate because the gravel will go into it. If you have grass there, then, or even dirt, then it's a different matter. And perhaps we could put in an additional on the backside, put in additional drainage there to make sure, or, to reduce any possibility that there's runoff onto the Beckman property, which I'm not saying there is, but, that would to me be one of the simpler things to do. So I would like to hear from the planning department in writing perhaps, and then I have a chance to talk to my client, and then maybe we can, continue this at a date to be determined.
And I would like to see a drainage plan submitted on your part.
Okay.
And
So we do
Morgan,
that, do we want to do that in order?
in coordination.
With them.
Okay.
So how long would you need for that?
How long will you take, you think?
To review it?
Yeah. Well, or you want us to submit a drainage plan first, or you want to comment on the revegetation, or you want us to propose something?
Well,
I mean, we have a proposed re-veg plan.
yeah, but I think the drainage should be engineered, so that might take a while, right?
Right.
Or-
At least a month, I would think.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a continuation, it's
Yeah.
not like.
Yeah.
we-
I like to set dates by which we resubmit hard dates, and then you can decide when to reschedule, hold another public hearing.
So how long would you need?
I would say not less than 6 weeks to be on the safe side.
Will that engineering document have the survey that has the
And our survey, the survey does have topography. I think our existing survey, as well as the original one, has topo.
It has
Not
some on
right?
the side
So
here.
this isn't missing any topo lines. This is
Little bit,
accurate.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
It's pretty flat, that's why.
Yeah, it's
there's
pretty
lack of-
flat.
Yeah, that's why
Okay.
there's lack of topo lines. Yep.
March 3rd is a hearing, March 17th is a hearing.
Then we'll have the 24th, February 3rd, there's a work session.
of
So
March.
do you want to continue it on the 17th?
No.
I have wait. Oh, no, that's right, a town board work session,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, yes, there's just regular, yeah.
I don't think I'd want to do anything in February because I have a trial coming up in
Yeah.
Riverhead.
I know, Rick,
Supposed to
I
start
know.
in 2 weeks.
March 3rd?
At that point, I should be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because my client's got to hire somebody to do the
So
engineering.
we want to schedule the continuation for March 3rd?
Yes, and I want to, is there a request for something in writing from the planning department in response to the applicant's submission, or is that something that you would want, Rick, or is that something the
I
board
thought
would
we were
want?
going to have 6 weeks to actually submit, well, today is what, the
Yeah.
6th? So
I'd
March
like to
3rd,
see
okay,
you
all right,
submit
okay.
your
3rd, I guess you
revegetation ideas and also a drainage plan, and then the planning department can look at it.
So why don't we figure 6 weeks to submit something to the board? The
Okay.
planning department can review it between then and the hearing date,
Sure.
re-hearing date, continuation date. And we're thinking March 3rd as a continuation?
I'm thinking, yes, and that would mean if we continue to have that on that date, we wouldn't have
Okay,
to read
and
it.
if you have to change it, let me
Okay.
know.
Wait, what, can you go over those dates? 6 weeks, and then how much time for the planners? Is that?
About 2 weeks.
Yeah, I could do a week or two.
March 3rd.
Seems,
Morgan seems to think she has time. Do you, is that okay with you? That's what I thought, okay.
So when would,
It's two
okay,
things,
So
probably.
have
the
time.
continuation is going to take place on March 3rd.
I'm not going to jinx myself, Terry, but I think I
And
might
we're
have
leaving the
time.
record open for 6 weeks for the submission of a revegetation plan and engineering documents from the applicant.
what's the 6-week date?
So
6 weeks open,
6 weeks puts
So
us,
6 weeks for us to submit something to you
Right.
from
yes.
tonight. Okay.
that's February
Is that-
17th.
Okay.
so what date is
What date
it?
is
And then
that,
it'll be
Morgan?
2 weeks, 2 weeks from that is the 3rd.
February 17th, you said, Charlie? It's 6
It's
weeks?
February 7th,
Okay.
February
6 weeks
17th.
for us to submit something, right?
Yes, yes.
Till February 17th, and then they'll have weeks to review, and then the
Hearing will be March
continuation of
3rd,
the
so it'll be
hearing
2
is March
weeks.
3rd.
So,
And
Understood.
it won't need to be renoticed, right?
yeah, we'll
Okay,
renotice.
so we don't have to worry about getting it to the star.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Vice Chair, you ready?
You okay, Rick? You good? Okay, thank you. Then in the application of Henry Proto at 835 Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-52-1-10.3, I'd like to make a motion to continue this hearing until March 3rd, allowing 6 weeks for an engineering report to be filed to the planning department by February 17th,
And a revegetation
and
plan.
a revegetation plan to accompany that engineering.
Second?
Yeah.
Your submission is by February 17th, yes.
Concur.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Okay. Concur.
When it comes to, you can concur. Jose concurs.
Major first.
Major first concur.
Concur, that's a good idea.
Yeah, a good first.
All right, good first. Okay, let's see.
Morgan.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to Patrick Brennan. Description is to remove walkways, gravel, and pavers to reconstruct exiting decking with proposed additions, construct a new driveway addition, and to allow existing stone patio, LP tanks, AC unit, masonry wall, walkways, and brick patio to remain within setbacks of wetland, rear yard, and front yard lot line setbacks on a parcel of land within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 9 variances are required. Variances of 67 feet, 61.7 feet, 52.9 feet, and 40.4 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the patio to remain 33 feet, LP tanks to remain 38.3 feet, AC unit to remain 47.1 feet, and decking to be constructed 59.6 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. Variances of 4 feet and 2.75 feet are required from 255-11-10 of the Town Code to allow the AC unit to remain 6 feet and LP tanks to remain 7.75 feet from the rear yard lot line setbacks where 10-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 5.5 feet is required from 255-11-10 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 9.5 feet from the rear yard lot line where a 15-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 0.2 feet is required from 255-11-10 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 9.4 feet from the side yard lot line where a 9.6-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 7.5 feet is required from 255-11 of the Town Code to allow the existing patio to remain 12.5 feet from the front yard lot line where a 20-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B Residence AE flood zone, elevation 12, secret class type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavits and notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. Do
mine.
member,
What?
thank you. Member Berger. Oh, yeah, that's right. Can you do your field inspection?
Yes. Well, this is the way I found it on the day I went to take the photos. I had been there earlier in the week. It was a little bit better. You could read it. Next, I did hold it up so we can get a picture. It was posted for the correct day and time, and it did try to stick it back in there. I don't know if it lasted. But next. Okay, this is a shot I just turned around from where the posting is and took a shot of neighbors across the street. Next. Now this is the house itself, and the front where the brick patio is one of the variances that's required for the front setback on toward the street. And then I'm going to walk around and cover the area, well, around the whole house, basically. There's a lot of decking that had been replaced with the impervious stones and are in various aspects of this application. So next, I'm walking up the east side, and you see where some of the stone patio walkway is, and the stone patio in front of that. This on the east side of the house, going toward the back. Next. Oh, that's just a closer view. I'm continuing walking toward the back. Part of this is to change this back into decking that will extend to where that accessory structure is in the back. Next. Now I'm at that accessory structure on the right side and the back of the house, and I'm shooting across. Across is where one of the other patios that's in question for this application is, and shows where they're proposed to redo a deck and have it end at this wood platform in front of the structure. Next. Now I'm in the back where the AC unit and the propane tanks are. These are also in question for variances from the wetlands. Next. And it's a shot toward the north, and the neighbor back in the back. This is toward the wetlands. The next is a better shot into the wetlands. This is more in a northwesterly direction, and the wetlands are in there. Next. Now this is the brick patio, stone patio rather, that is in the back. That is in question. It needs dimensional variances plus large variance from the wetlands. Next. Now I'm standing on that patio and shooting across from the west side to the east side of the house. Next. And this is the stone walkway that's going down on the west side of the house, and I'm not really sure if they're offering to change that back to what it was, but the agent can discuss that. Next. And that's just an opposite view of that same last stone walkway from the front of the house toward the back, toward where the shower is. I think that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this application?
Good evening, Thomas Crouch, attorney for the applicant, Patrick Brennan. I don't know if I need to submit I did come back out there. I think I must have just missed you on the second because I stapled it back. I was checking like every day because it was real windy.
You find it stuck in the cable wires?
So I have photos at like 4 o'clock on Friday, so I don't know if I need to submit those or. I think okay. So yeah, so this, this is several patios and decks. The reason why this all started when the applicant was replacing the deck that's on this side right here in 2023, and he got cited. He got a stop work order and a violation for doing it without a building permit. These pavers that are here along the side and right here are to be removed. They were just put there to, as a holding measure until we could get in front of the board with the deck. So that's the property as it stands now. And we just submitted this survey today, just showing the only change is to make sure that the deck has a 5-foot separation from the septic system, which is what Tyler requested in the TAM, and also to show this area to be revegetated up here. So yeah, this property has evolved over 25 plus years. My client purchased it in 2017. Just to give you an idea of he purchased it without an updated CO. The last CO was from 2002. Can you show the 2002 CO survey? Yeah, so this is what it looked like the last time it had a CO, with a couple of additions. So the deck stopped right here. This is a gravel parking area. And back here, there's no deck or patio shown. There's also, curiously, this fence encroachment, which this parcel to the north is a town-owned parcel that is where the wetlands are, and that's why we're here. So this stockade fence is encroached for at least 24 years. And what's interesting is if you go to the, so I submitted like the GIS areas from 2001 going forward. So, but if you have those. Okay, this little letter that had an exhibit. Or if you want to, can you just pull up the historical aerials? I just said 2025.
The board, I sent the board a bunch today too.
Okay. So you can't show this historical ones?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
Available.
Well, Exhibit D to the letter that I submitted last week has all of them in order. Do you have that letter?
No.
Okay.
Well, we have them in the file.
Okay, so
we have the digital.
Basically, if you look at the 2001 aerial, there is a deck with appears to be a hot tub on top of it right here. I don't know why it's not shown on the CO survey, but it's shown in the 2001 aerial. And then when you flip to 2004, it's the same thing. There's a hot tub right here with a deck underneath it. And at that point in 2004, this deck here had been extended back to the accessory shed. So at that point, over 20 years ago, we've got a hot tub here and a deck going back here. And then as you move forward in time.
So, excuse me, what's the date on that one that you're showing us?
This one is 2025. This is the current.
Oh, the current, okay.
So,
I don't see
the
the
fence
2001.
has existed, throughout since 2001 at least. Then as you move forward in time, this brick patio in the front was built around 2010. And this is all, I submitted a letter last week that had each aerial over time. So please review it. And then the AC unit and the 2 propane tanks were added by my client around 2020. And this stone patio was built about the same time as he got the stop work order for the deck. He removed this deck here, built a stone patio that expanded. The deck was probably ended about right here, and he added about 150 square feet on the stone patio. So the only 2 things he's done himself are putting the AC unit and the propane tanks, and then the stone patio. So, just flipping to each structure, the whole reason they started with this process is the deck on the east side of the property. It's generally in the same location as it was in the 2002 CO, except for where it's been extended back to the shed, which has been there since at least 2004. The AC unit and the gas tanks have been in their present location since 2020. I know Tyler mentioned the TAM that there is an alternative location. not really sure where there would be an alternative location. This entire property's within the jurisdiction of the wetlands. If you move that AC unit and those gas tanks to either side, then you're probably creating a visual and noise impact for the neighbors. So even in the TAM, Tyler mentioned that the impact to the wetlands for those structures is minimal. So we're requesting to leave those where they are. We recognize that the stone patio is a significant structure near wetlands. Our proposal for mitigation is we're going to remove the fence, put it on the property line, and revegetate 600 square feet of the town-owned parcel. That was requested in the TAM. I recognize that it's a town-owned property. I would say it's been there, for 25 years plus. So I think it's a significant bit of mitigation. And then the brick patio in the front, I would just say that several of the neighbors have similar patios. They're not brick patios, but they're second floor patios for, where there's a table and chairs. And so I think the impact of that brick patio to the community is minimal. It's been there for over a decade. And then, the masonry wall. One of the things that Tyler mentioned, the TAM, is this masonry wall. If you look, I took a couple of photos that I submitted with my letter. It's about a foot high. It kind of runs into this hill here. I looked at the septic guidelines. There isn't a requirement for a 5-foot separation for the masonry wall, especially something as minor as this. So we're asking to leave it where it is. You can see the photos I submitted. It's not a significant structure. It's not a retaining wall. It does not hold back earth. I think most of these structures have been here for 10 plus, 25 plus years. The ones that my client added are the stone patio and the gas tanks and AC unit. We're proposing significant mitigation for the stone patio and the gas tanks and AC unit. I just don't believe there's an alternative location that's not disruptive to the neighborhood. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, on the 2002 survey, there was a wood walkway on the west side and on the east side, which you've talked about that one. And these stones that were added, did you say your client only added those temporarily because you got the stop work order?
So
Is that what you said?
Yeah. So
You mean the pavers?
You're talking about these right here?
Those pavers, yeah.
Yeah, those pavers were just there. Like, he's going to remove those if he gets approval.
Well, it says to be removed, yeah.
So these will remain. There's nothing changing on the west side of the house.
So on the west side, though, that also went in sometime between 2002, that the wood walkway got changed and these pavers got put in. And all the stuff from 2002, nothing went in with a permit. And I have to say, Thomas, I don't see a patio with a hot tub in the 2001 aerial. I'm looking at it. I really don't see that.
Let's see. There's a deck on the northwest corner of the house with a white structure on top of it.
You think that's a hot tub?
I think, I don't know. I'm not certain. There's something there. That's my only point to make there is the 2002 survey doesn't show it. Doesn't show anything there, but there was something there. And so my client's, expansion of that is only about 150 square feet. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that
Yeah, okay.
there's been something there for a long time. I think it's a hot tub. It makes sense, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, and then somebody along the way usurped onto the town-owned property and put the stockade fence in.
Right.
And and cleared in there and you're using it, yet you're calling this the extent of your mitigation in order to get all this other stuff approved?
Right, so the fence encroachment's it's on the 2002 CO. It's been there for 25 years. You know, to remove it, bring it back to the property line and revegetate the town on parcel, that was the mitigation proposed in the TAM. So you know, we're complying with that, I think is pretty significant considering 600 square feet that my client doesn't own. You know, I recognize that it's, you know, town-owned property, but it's been there for a very long time, and it is on the most recent CO.
But when you say it's on the CO, I'm sorry to jump in, but when you say it's on the CO, it's on a survey that was associated with.
That's correct.
Right. But I know, like for our board, we're always told we can't approve anything or render a decision on something that's off the property. So I guess I'm trying to understand legally, just because it existed at the time that CO was granted, that's different than saying it was, quote, CO'd.
That's correct. It's on the survey that the CO is based on.
Yeah, but that
Still off
doesn't,
the property.
okay.
Right, yeah. Okay. I think
But it still shows that, you know, we have a 20-year span here where a lot of things went in without any benefit of any permit at all, and your client did buy the property. You know, you can't say it only counts from 2017 when he bought it.
Right. I mean, I think, you know, if we're talking about the character of the community and can something have a negative impact on the character of the community when it's been there for 25 years, 12 years in some of these cases, for some of this stuff?
Sure.
There was no C of O issued in 2017 when they bought the house.
Right.
No.
Yeah. The most recent CO is from 2002.
We don't have any town documentation as to the condition of the house when they bought it.
No, I mean, we
have aerial
got the
photos.
aerial.
Yeah, we have aerial
GIS aerials. Yeah.
So also, did we address the decking on the east side of the residence, which is located over the sanitary system? Which
Yes,
doesn't really meet
It says
Suffolk
they're gonna
County
move it.
Department of Health.
Well,
So I submitted a survey that showed
Okay.
that there, if you look, it's 5 feet.
Okay.
when did you submit that, sir? Because the latest one I had was September 10th,
Yeah, I didn't see that
2024.
survey.
And then I have what you submitted
Yeah.
the other day with the
But it's not a
planting
survey.
plan. It's a planting.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
the
not-
survey, I submitted it today. We had trouble getting.
So your
Oh,
latest
okay.
survey, Tom, that indicates is what date? What is that date?
It's submitted today.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it.
Not in the
Okay.
record yet.
From the prior
That's why I
survey,
didn't see it. Okay.
5-foot setback.
Okay.
So we need to get that into the record.
Yes.
Can I just stay on this east side of the house for a second? Because I'm looking on the September 24th, 2024 survey. So I just want to make sure, so you've got the deck that jogs around the corner of the house, right, that they were replacing. And then the pavers are being removed to the south, and the pavers walking north are being removed on the east side, right? Then I'm looking at a notation on the survey with an arrow that says proposed deck.
Right.
So I'm still having a hard time seeing on the survey the extent of this additional deck that's proposed on the east side.
So yeah, so this is where the deck is now.
Right?
The deck is just like this.
Okay, so that's that line. So that deck is being expanded by how many square feet?
So in this part, it's the same as what's on the 2002 CO. The only addition is what's going back to the accessory structure, which has been there since 2004. So they were replacing something that was on the 2002 CO running to about here, but it had, been in existence since 2000.
But you want to extend it north.
Well, it also looks like it's being extended. I guess I'm just confused. When was the deck that you said that was there was removed to put the pavers in?
Yeah, the deck,
Did that happen?
yeah, so the deck was, this was removed in 2023 to be replaced, and they got a stop work order in the middle of the process.
Oh, so what you're saying is what's on the survey now shown as deck is the part that was already replaced before the stop work order.
Right.
But I guess it's confusing because it says proposed deck. So, so what you're saying is that forgive me, I'm just trying to, it's not as clear on the survey as my eyes are seeing it, but so you're going to rebuild the deck in what was in place and in kind, but you're extending it further north. Is that what you're saying? To all the way to the accessory structure?
Right. So we're replacing in kind what was physically on the site.
Right.
The part that was legal on this 2002 CO ran to about here.
Okay, is that that's on a prior survey, right? Can we see that on a prior? I'm just wondering, okay.
2002 survey.
Right. Oh, back to 2010. All right.
All right, so from there.
Yeah.
And then,
2004, this was extended up.
okay, what's the setback? I know decking attached to a house needs a greater setback, right? So does Tyler just have reduced setbacks on this property? It is, okay. All right, thank you.
It's only 60 feet wide.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the original deck.
So
looks like a
yeah.
setback.
All right, if we're ready, I'd like to hear from the planning
Yeah.
department.
Sure.
Thank you, Tom. And if we have any additional
no,
questions, we'll come back.
Okay.
Let's hear from planning. Let's move this.
Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. So this property is located on the north side of Agnew Avenue in Montauk. The applicant is before the board for approval to legalize several structures, including patios, walkways, decking, a masonry wall, and to reconstruct existing decking and to construct a new driveway. Several of the structures do not meet minimum wetland, rear yard, side yard, or front yard lot line setbacks. The wetland pertinent to this application is on the adjacent town-owned parcel to the northwest. That parcel was acquired by the town in 1997, but efforts by the town to purchase it go back as far back as 1974. This wetland is an important component of the largest watercourse in Ditch Plains watershed. Wetlands such as this one provide essential habitat to wetland-dependent plants and animals with dense residential development of Ditch Plains surrounding it. The structures seeking relief are a mix of existing structures being reconstructed and existing structures built without proper permits in place after the most recent CO was issued in 2002. The various decking, walkways, and patios were constructed and expanded over the years since the 2002 CO, with the patio at the rear of the parcel expanding as recently as sometime between 2023 and 2024, according to aerial images. Expanding such a constrained property so substantially and in close proximity to significant wetlands does not, in the planning department's opinion, meet the NRSP or variance standards. There are aspects of the application which are reasonable, such as removing pavers and replacing them with decking that existed at the time of the last CO. However, a stone patio at the north end of the existing residence is a substantial variance request which adds impermeable surfaces in close proximity to wetlands with limited buffer between and no real mitigation able to be offered, which would offset those impacts. With the location of the wetland to the north, any additional development north of the existing residence is a poor candidate for an NRSP and variance. The patio at the front of the house is a better location as far as setbacks from wetlands are concerned, but requires significant front yard lot line setbacks and may not meet the variance standards, especially a change in the character of the neighborhood. The driveway extension is similarly minimal, impacting to wetlands and that are within jurisdiction and likely an appropriate candidate for approval. The masonry wall is within RSP jurisdiction. It's within jurisdiction, but meets setbacks and is located in one of the more conforming locations on the property. Other than that, I think everything was discussed, and I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Well, the stone walkway on the west side hasn't been in the discussion or in the narrative at all, but that was also changed illegally somewhere along the way since 2002. Well, 2002 is not up there. It did have a small wood walkway at 2002 on the west side also. So that's also in jurisdiction for NRSP,
Mhm.
and I don't know about variances on some of that,
The walkways generally would just be an NRSP.
NRSP.
Yeah.
But it's a variance, does it need a variance to the wetlands at the top? Is that
No.
notice? No, okay, right, pavers
And-
don't.
Are we good?
They're pretty minimal.
Okay, and the gas tanks and AC,
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are better,
Any benefit to
I
move
would
it
say that
from-
there are better locations further south on the property that would pull it away from wetlands, but they're also at the same time small structures. But certainly there are better locations. They're about the worst location you can put them on the property. So
see any benefit in taking them from behind the accessory structure and putting them between the house and the accessory structure?
it would certainly pull them further away from wetlands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Absolutely.
And from the,
increase the setback a little.
Right. I mean, any increase in setback when you're that close to wetlands is a benefit. They're not significant structures. They're not huge, 6 by 6, something like that at most. It's hard to quantify a benefit, how much significant of a difference it would be, but obviously it would be better.
does the shower need any kind of dry well or anything?
I'm not certain. It existed at the time.
Been there for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
so I didn't even really pay much
Part of it.
attention to it. I don't know.
No,
if
I
it had
just
one or-
didn't know.
Yeah, the shower's not even a part of this application.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
Well, I'm just thinking
now,
about mitigation, that's
okay,
all.
no, we're not good.
Okay,
The revegetation plan, the planting plan was stated that you recommended that as mitigation.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had suggested that that the historical, it's not a violation, I guess you can call it. It's not a violation technically, but the historical clearing onto the town-owned property that as part of the application is to remedy that issue. To sort of bring, add a buffer to the wetlands, which there is almost very little of now, and B, to bring the structures onto the property itself. There's not much room to do additional revegetation. I mean, there's, 5 feet at the back of the lot? It's not, you need space to go behind there, especially if mechanicals are back there. So yeah, it's about as much, I think, as probably reasonable. Maybe a little bit more is possible, but not much.
Are we good? Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address this application? Matt, are there any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Do you have anything else to add?
I'm happy to consider additional mitigation. I just I don't know where else we could do mitigation on this property. It's a very small lot. I'm happy to take suggestions. Other than revegetating the town-owned piece, which is 600 square feet, I don't believe there's much we can do.
Board members?
I'm going to.
I think we'll just,
I have no more questions.
no, I have no more
I
questions.
make my decision on based on this.
We're good. We don't need any more. I don't,
All right, we're good.
I think we're good
Proposing,
with
right?
what you're
Yeah.
proposing.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Member Berger?
Public.
We did
already
public.
did that.
We did
Public.
Thank you, I'm
I
chairing
missed it. I
tonight. You
missed
want to chair
it.
tonight?
Okay. Okay, so we're closing the record. So for the application of Patrick Brennan at 48 Agnew Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-031-2-37, make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Okay. Our next application is Julian Mazersky. The description is to construct a 966 square foot, 2-story residence with a 100 square foot second-story balcony, entry steps, walkway, driveway, dry wells, and new sanitary system on a parcel of land containing wetlands, beach vegetation, and which is proposed outside of the town's pyramid regulations. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 6 variances are required for this application. Variances of 97.2 feet and 91.5 feet are required from 255-430C of the Town Code to construct a proposed residence 2.8 feet and second-story balcony 8.5 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 112.9 feet from 255-430B of the Town Code is required to construct the new sanitary system 37.1 feet from freshwater wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 49.5 feet is required from 255-430D of the Town Code is required to allow clearing 0.5 feet from the edge of wetlands where a 50-foot setback is required. Variances of approximately 12.48 feet and 12.32 are required from 255-1172D of the Town Code to allow the residence to be constructed outside of the town's pyramid regulations, 12.48 feet along with the southern property line and 12.32 feet along the northern property line, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10. Secret class is type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yeah, I reviewed the affidavit of notice and posting, and everything seems to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Thank you. Member Maring, do we have a field inspection?
We do. May I just confirm on the question about the trustees needing to be noticed? The trustees need to be noticed.
Have the trustees been noticed on this, Council?
Not based off of the application paperwork that I received, but I don't believe the trustees own this lot.
No, it abuts, this lot abuts the trustee property, so I just, as a notice.
May I speak?
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't believe
Richard
they own
Whalen?
that property, though.
The trustees do not own the adjoining property.
Okay.
Oh,
Adjoining property is owned by the town of East Hampton, which purchased it in 1961 from the wife of Gilbert P. Smith, who was a co-founder of Smithfield Company.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The
he's-
tax map says that the trustees own it.
right.
The tax map is wrong,
Okay.
Okay.
and I will explain that only in private, how that happened.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I looked at the tax
Member
map.
Maring, do you have a
Yes,
field inspection?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So I'm standing on Beach Ave. Beach Ave is basically the easternmost road of the area, the broad area we consider to be overall Beach Hampton. This lot is about halfway down from Bluff Road, between Bluff Road and the ocean. So my back is to across the street. You can see the notice there. We'll zoom in on it. But one of the things that's brought up a lot is the narrow and small nature of the lot. So literally you can just look at that. You can see the vegetated part. You can literally see both neighbors' house on either side. So you get a sense of the constraint right away from this lot. Next slide, please. I just took a close-up of the notice to show that it was dated properly. Next slide. I did go on the property. I didn't really take photos of what's there. There's no leaves or anything now. It's brambly and uncleared with wetland vegetation on it. But when I did go on the property, just to show the proximity, that is the house to the north, sort of a small cottage, and that's their clearing on their property. Next slide. This was just a bit of a shot of what the conditions of the property are about halfway in. Next slide. Okay, I'm a little out of order here. I took some shots of some of the surrounding houses, because there was a lot of discussion about the size of the house, a lot about character. This Beach Avenue is defined by a lot of very small cottages on various size, but all undersized lots. Next slide. Okay, this is the house. This is the house directly to the south of the lot in the application. This is a much bigger house. It sits up on a block, and I don't know when it was approved, but that's the next door neighbor. Next slide. And then again, just to wrap up, because there's not a lot of things to show on the property, this is just some, we can just go through these quickly, just scroll through. These are some of the close by surrounding cottages. This is a house that is across the street that I think was expanded at some point. Another small cottage close by, you just scroll through them for the record. Again, this is the character of the neighborhood. Okay. Yep. Just see all of them. I think that's it. Thank you.
Is there someone here to speak on behalf of this application?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Richard Whalen again from Landmarks and Whalen Filer PLLC. I represent the owner of the property is Julian Mazurski Jr. And Julian is here. I mentioned Julian because you'll hear his father's name at some point too.
Before you move forward, what are we working off of as just want to double check the date
The last survey?
Survey.
The last survey submitted to you is by Walbridge and is dated last revised May 9th,
Okay.
2025.
Thank you. That's what I was looking at.
And the other thing that you should also be checking, that's also important, is the plans from, Julian is an architect. So there are plans from Mazurski Architecture PLLC, 10 pages, A1 through A10, I believe, dated May 2nd, 2025. And those are also important.
Thank you.
Yep.
The proposal, as you heard, is for a two-story single-family residence with a GFA of 996 square feet. An earlier application for a larger house was denied by the zoning board in 2022. The applicant then resubmitted in 2024. That proposal was further reduced in size before the applicant ever went to a public hearing. That brought us eventually to the proposal before you right now. And if you look at the first page of the drawings I just referred to, A1, there are notes on that first page on the lower left that detail the most recent changes to the application proposal. I believe this is the sort of an application where the zoning board might be tempted initially to deny the application again. It's a very constrained lot. The planning department memo claims the house can be made still smaller and the wetland setbacks can be increased. Neither claim is true. I will prove to you that the proposed house is as small as reasonably possible and that it is impossible to meaningfully increase wetland setbacks. Generally, it's hard to prove these things, but I'm going to do that for you. Background, first of all. The Mazurski family has owned this property since 1972. Julian's father, who passed away in March of last year, and another man purchased this lot as an investment on October 26, 1972. It's a legally single and separate lot. It consists of lots 4 and 5 in block 4 of the map of Beach Hampton Section 3, which was filed with the county clerk on June 28, 1939. The property has been at least 50% in the Mazurski family ownership since 1972. That's more than 53 years. When Mr. Mazurski and his partner bought the property in 1972, the following circumstances existed. There were no wetland protections. I mean, none. The New York State legislature enacted the Freshwater Wetlands Act in 1975, 3 years approximately after Mr. Mazurski and his partner bought this lot. The town did not have wetland regulations in the zoning code until 1976. Those regulations then required a special permit for the zoning board to fill wetlands. There were no setbacks, but if you wanted to fill wetlands, you needed a special permit from the zoning board. The current regulatory regime, which is a natural resources special permit and wetland setbacks, was not enacted until December 1984 with the modern zoning code. Finally, the town did not enact a permit law until 1976. All that occurred after Julian's father and another person had already bought the lot. The wetland line affecting the property has been continuously reflagged by the town closer and closer to a potential house site on the Mazurski property over the years. At least 20 foot of movement since 2000. We have detailed that in our application narrative. And just to be clear, we're not challenging the wetland line as it stands, but it is curious, it's a curious fact, that the wetland line has moved closer and closer on the property over all these years. Let's turn first to the question of house size. The town code has design requirements for single-family residences found in Town Code Section 255-11-67. And I'm going to detail them by subsection number, and you might want to just write down the subsection number. These are not guidelines or suggestions. They are requirements. They are zoning code requirements. 255-11-67A says, in addition to the use rules for single-family residences contained in the preceding sections, every such residence constructed, reconstructed, or substantially expanded after the effective date of this section, or any amendment thereto, shall comply, meaning it's mandatory, with the following design requirements. There are three of note. Subsection A4, and I'm quoting from the code here. There shall be no more than one conventional bedroom for every 300 square feet of habitable floor area, except that 2 bedrooms shall always be permitted. 2 bedrooms are always permitted. A5, there shall be at least one room which is not designed as a conventional bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, foyer, storage area, or closet. You don't have to worry about the last three of that. We only have one closet in the whole house, no storage area, and no foyers. We have a kitchen, a bathroom on each floor, and 2 bedrooms. We need one more room that's not one of those. We have a living room on the ground floor. That's a code requirement. Finally, area for sleeping purposes, every bedroom occupied by one person shall contain at least 70 square feet of floor area. I presume they mean habitable floor area. The code is not clear about that. And every bedroom occupied by more than one person shall contain at least 50 square feet of floor area for each occupancy thereof. Meaning if you have a 2-person bedroom, you need at least 100 square feet of floor area. Our 2 bedrooms in the second are both 125 square feet, just a little over the 100 square feet. I submit it would be totally unreasonable for the ZBA to require that a bedroom be only legally occupiable by one person. So our 2 bedrooms are each designed to sleep 2 people, albeit barely. The minimum size for a 2-person bedroom, as I said, is 100 square feet. Just so you understand, the whole second floor, which includes the stairway to the second floor and the bathroom, as well as the two bedrooms, is less than 450 square feet in GFA. And gross floor area, GFA, is a measure to the outside of the exterior walls. In accordance with the town's design requirements, the house will have one room that is not a kitchen, bedroom, or bathroom. That's the first floor living room. That's labeled a great room on the plans. It is not very great. If you look at the plans, and actually there you have them, on the left-hand side, it dimensions that space. There are footage figures in there saying 15 feet by 22 feet. I checked with Julian. That is measuring to the outside walls and includes the stairway at the top of the drawing and the bathroom at the lower right in that space. The actual floor area of the living room, as you can see, is roughly an L shape, is only 220 square feet. That's the area of the living room. This is a bare bones house. How tight is it? It has no storage. We have no basement, no attic, no shed. In the entire house, there is only one closet. That's a coat closet underneath the stairs. That's the only closet in the whole house.
Wait, there's no closets in the bedroom?
No closets for the bedrooms. The only way you'll be able to store your belongings, including your clothes in the bedrooms, is by putting in furniture, like an armoire. In fact, if you look at the second floor plans, Julian has kind of tucked an armoire in behind each of the doors, or a chest of drawers, or you could have underbed storage. There are no closets in either of the 2 bedrooms. Obviously, there's also space taken up by the stairs necessary to reach the second floor. We need a second floor because we're trying to make the house footprint as small as possible so we don't physically intrude on the wetlands. The house cannot legally be made smaller in any meaningful degree, and I've just gone through the design requirements in the code for you. Every bit of space is either required by law, 2 bedrooms, which are barely above the minimum required, and a living room, plus a kitchen, bathrooms on each floor, and stairs to the second floor to comply with state building code as to width. There are not even foyers or hallways to speak of. When you enter the front door, which has to be up a flight of stairs because the first floor is elevated 5 to 6 feet above grade because of FEMA, we'll talk about that, you go right into the kitchen. When you go up the second floor stairs, when you come out the top of the stairs, directly in front of you is the bathroom door and the doors to the 2 bedrooms are to either side. There's not even a hallway to speak of. Even the bathrooms are minimal. The bathroom is only 5 feet wide. The first floor bathroom is just a sink and a toilet. Only the second floor bathroom has bathing facilities, a tub with a shower head. At the back of the first floor bathroom, there is a utility space that would accommodate on the first, or we're on the second floor there, but there you can see the shower tower at the bottom. At the bottom, that utility space, 5 feet by 2 feet 11 inches, will accommodate a hot water heater or maybe an on-demand hot water heater. The house is heated by electric. Why? There is no room for an oil or gas furnace. Like I said, it's as bare bones as you can make it. There are regulatory constraints on the house placement. First of all, the house is forced back from the road, meaning towards the wetlands, by the septic system. The septic system has preliminary approval from the Suffolk County Health Department. Julian dealt with them over a period of years. They will not grant final approval, of course, until you've issued a natural resources special permit. The leaching field is in front of the house. We have approval from the health department to place the parking area for 2 cars, which is a zoning code requirement, on top of the leaching area. The leaching field will only be excavated about 1 foot deep, and then that excavated material will be used as top cover. We meet the health department's minimum separation to property lines, which is 5 feet, and to the building itself, which is also 5 feet. The building, of course, remember, is elevated on pilings. Julian was able to place the Norweco IE low nitrogen septic tank on the north side of the house, and you can see it there. Thank you, Tyler. But the distribution box, and the distribution lines have to run from the Norweco tank to the leaching field, and those are between the leaching field and the house, so that forces the house and the stairs back a little bit further. We cannot get any closer to the street because of the space occupied by the septic system. There are also vertical limitations here, and that's one of the reasons why we need permit relief. FEMA imposed a height requirement for the house. The property is in zone AE elevation 10. That nominally means a first floor elevation of 10 feet, but as you all know, New York State Building Code imposes an additional 2 feet of freeboard. So the first floor of the house has to be at a minimum elevation above mean sea level of 12 feet. Ground elevation at the house site is between 6 feet and 7 feet. So the house has to be 5 to 6 feet up in the air. Raising the house 5 to 6 feet above grade is therefore required by law. We have no choice. This exacerbates the permitless situation, and the lot is only 40 feet wide. The house has to be 2 stories to minimize its footprint, so we're not encroaching directly on wetlands. We therefore need permit law variances of 12.5 feet, approximately 12.5 feet on the south side, and 12.3 feet on the north side. Julian has minimized the south side permit law variance by stepping back the second floor and putting a 3-foot 10-inch balcony on that side of the house. By the way, that is the only outdoor recreational area on the whole property. There's no lawn, there's no deck, only that 3-foot 10-inch balcony, which is probably just wide enough to put a chair out there if you turn the chair sideways. On the north side, the main encroachment to the permit law setback is the stairwell to the second floor. Furthermore, Julian has compressed the house vertically. You all know that a flat roof house has a maximum height above grade of 25 feet. Your height cannot exceed 25 feet for a flat roof house. The top of the house, the roof, is shown in drawing A6, is 22.7 feet above grade. That's despite the fact we're forced up by 5 to 6 feet by the FEMA regulations. So the house is as short as it can be, which also minimizes the permit law variance. And as I said, the house has no outdoor recreational area other than the 3-foot 10-inch balcony that's on the south side, outside the bedrooms. I want to comment briefly on the planning department memo. The planning department says that the house could be made smaller and the wetland setbacks could be increased. This is impossible. The planning department memo contains absolutely no analysis of the house design and no explanation as to how further reducing the house size could be accomplished. The planning department also says that construction on this lot would cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. Now, there were some very good photos by Member Marion that showed much of the character of the neighborhood. The Beach Avenue neighborhood is characterized by small houses on small lots. We are proposing a small house, less than 1,000 square feet, on a small lot. We're very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. The Beach Avenue subdivision, which is really Beach Hampton Section 3, the map of Beach Hampton Section 3, is zoned B residence. That requires a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. I counted, there are approximately 41 lots on Beach Avenue today. You know how many of them meet the 20,000 square foot standard?
None.
One.
Oh,
One with this 1.6 acre lot, merged lots. 1 out of 41 lots actually meets the zoning requirement for a lot area. 10 lots, nearly a quarter of the lots of Beach Avenue, that includes ours, are only 40 feet wide. We're not alone. There are 9 other lots also 40 feet wide in this road. Potential environmental harm. This is really the nut of the whole issue here, okay? Because we do need significant variance relief, wetland setback relief. The house is only 2 bedrooms. It's less than 1,000 square feet JFA. It can only, as a practical matter, be used seasonally. There's no storage. You can't live in this house on a long-term basis. You could never use this house as a full-time residence. You couldn't store your stuff. There's no space. So it's a beach cottage and a beach cottage only. It has a footprint of only 548 square feet. And the total land disturbance, bear this in mind when you're thinking about potential harm to the wetlands here, the total land disturbance associated with the project, that means all clearing, all the space occupied by the house, the driveway, which sits on top of parts of the leaching pool, leaching system, the septic system, total land disturbance is less than 2,500 square feet. Put that to you another way, that is 0.057 of an acre, or less than 1/17th of an acre. The house only extends back about 40% of the depth of the lot, which is 149 feet deep. The back of the house is less than 60 feet from Beach Avenue. Both of the neighboring properties, 40 Beach Avenue to our north and 48 Beach Avenue to our south, have improvements that extend much deeper into their lots. In 2007, on October 3rd, the ZBA granted to the house to the north, 40 Beach Avenue, granted wetland variances for clearing, septic, and house construction to allow a 1,646 square foot new house on that lot. I'm not sure, by the way, that house was actually built based in the building guard, but the zoning board did in 2007 grant that approval. You know how close the septic system was in that approval? 36.6 feet from the wetlands. That's a half a foot closer to the wetlands than our proposed septic system. That was approved by the zoning board in 2007. On the south side, 48 Beach Avenue, this house was built. On June 8th, 2016, the zoning board granted 6 wetland variances and 2 permit law variances to allow the construction of a 1,805 square foot residence. And I will note that both of those lots, 40 and 48 Beach Avenue, they both had houses back as far as 1962. So the zoning board wasn't just allowing them to build on vacant land. They already had houses and they were allowed to make larger houses.
What year did you say that the house to the south was?
That was 2016. The house to the north at 40 Beach Avenue was approved in 2007, October 2007. The one to the south was approved on June 8th, 2016. I will wrap this up.
Thank you.
Let me get to my last page.
Then I can get to my questions.
Not a full page. To wrap things up, Julian's proposed house cannot reasonably be made any smaller. He's done the absolute maximum you can do. And we went over this, myself and Jeff Ryreich, who was involved. You know, there were times when we told Julian, we think you can make the house smaller. And to his credit, he did. And he came back and said, yeah, I don't think you can go any smaller, Julian. I think careful examination of the house plans will demonstrate that. As I said, the absolute lack of storage. You can't make the house smaller under the code. And for that reason, the wetland setbacks, because of the house size, it can't be reduced. The footprint can't be made smaller. The septic system is what the septic system is. You cannot meaningfully increase the wetland setbacks. You can't do it. So denial of the application would deprive Mr. Mazursky of the right to build a house on a legally single and separate lot that his family has owned for more than 53 years. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, which I do not cite very often, says private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. The New York State Constitution, Article 1, Section 7 of the Bill of Rights has the exact same language. A denial of the application would prevent construction of any residence on the property. because we can't make it any smaller than this, and we can't set it any further back from the wetlands. And that would amount to an unconstitutional taking of Mr. Mazursky's property without affording him just compensation. And you know where that would lead to. That's all I
Okay.
have to say.
So, I don't want to deprive anyone the right to build a house, but it's not, it's easy to say, this is too big for the constraints of the property. We can argue that because the variances you're asking for are very large. What I want to know, because you're asking for a natural resource special permit, I don't see anything in the file about how this house is going to get built, and how are you going to build this house without going into the wetlands and causing severe damage? So my approach is, what is your building protocol, staging area, access? How is this going to happen? Because there's nothing in the file that indicates that.
I believe there is actually. Now,
What is it?
Jeff, over the last couple of years, has submitted a lot of material,
Yeah.
more than one narrative. And I didn't bring all the narratives with me here, but part of our narrative that Jeff Ryreich submitted states that the applicant hopes to do this as a modular. The preferred choice is you have to go in clear and be able to install the pilings. I don't remember if they're going to be installed helically or not. I don't know if they're helical piles. But the preferred approach is that he would be able to build the house off premises and then, bring it in. Obviously, you got to clear the land and set it down on top of the piles. So I don't know if Julian wants to add anything to this, but we did put that in writing in our earlier materials.
It's in writing that you're proposing this is going to be a modular home.
That it is preferred. I think the way Jeff Ryreich wrote it is that it is what we hope to do. I don't know that the feasibility of it is fully examined because that requires some work and effort and had to determine it, but that is the preferred approach.
Yeah. So
If we had to stick build it, then, there is a proposed clearing boundary and we would have to adhere to that.
right, the clearing boundary, and obviously that whole collateral damage argument is one we have to always consider
Right.
when you're doing something this sensitive. So I'm going to take it that your protocol is to approach it only from the driveway side, the disturbed area with the septic. You're going to put in the pilings, hopefully helically, but maybe not, but you might be, there's going to be some protocol there. The pilings go in, the whalers go in, and somebody drops a house on top of it. Snip, snip, no damage around there. We don't go in, we don't see any damage out further into the wetlands. I'm asking, that's your proposal.
That is the proposal. The leaching field obviously has to come in after the house
Leaching field
disturbance.
is separate though,
Yeah.
but the idea that we're 2 point some feet from wetlands with construction, which is an impossible way to work from that side of the house, obviously.
Right.
So we would be looking at something so critical to us to understand would be, as was brought up by Madam Chairman, what is the protocol you're suggesting now? I wasn't aware of it, but when this conversation started, that it was already proposed as a,
It is in one of Jeff's submissions.
I saw it, yeah.
There are
it's in the
multiple
most recent-
submissions, so there's a lot to read. I realize that. Even I can't say I've read everything, but he does have it in there.
But even that, needs a certain safeguard.
Well,
your
you got to put the
variances
pilings in
are-
first. There's no foundation. There's no excavation for foundation. So that does make it a little bit easier, I think, to not over disturb the area. You are excavating for the Norrico tank, and there is a, stormwater catchment basin next to that. Those have to be excavated for. But I think the cubic yardage for the excavation for the stormwater drainage is like 15 cubic feet, something like that.
You'll have your
It's
turn. You just
opportunity.
have to wait your turn. You'll have your opportunity.
I know that in the potential conditions of the of approval, I think number 8 in the TAM is about the scenic easement. Are you
Yes, okay.
easement?
Thank you. All of the conditions are acceptable to us that are in the planning department memo if the board approves the application. The one thing I would ask you is on the scenic easement, because you all know there is a required 10-foot setback from the scenic easement. I don't want to get stuck in a situation where we grant the town the scenic easement and the building inspector says, well, I can't issue a building permit. You don't have a variance from the scenic easement. So what I would propose in that regard is that the scenic easement be a condition of the certificate of occupancy, because we will have a scenic easement within 10 feet of the house. So we're okay with that. But again, I don't want it to turn out to be an inadvertent obstacle to building the house.
And then it's not on the survey. I mean, obviously, the variance, the biggest variance is measured to that north corner of the rear of the house, right? So, but where the wetland line moves away a bit, right, from the
Yeah,
rear
the wetland line,
And what's the purpose of those steps that run off the back of the house?
good question. It only gives us a second means of egress from the house. We have to have two means of egress from the house. The house is elevated, so we can't just come down a stoop. You have to actually stairs, and we don't want to put it on the south side of the house because then it will be in the side yard setback, and we would need side yard setback relief. So that's why they come down towards the wetlands.
Right.
Realistically, those steps are for an emergency.
Right.
We have no walkway to them. There's no real reason to go down there unless there's a fire in the house and you
And
need
it's
to
going
get
to be
out.
just a very modest, and then it's not, I guess you could probably scale it, but I couldn't do it on the little tiny survey I had. But the southern rear corner of the house, so the other corner of the rear of the house, do we know what the distance is of that to the?
To the wetland, you mean?
Yeah.
2.8 feet.
No, that's the closest.
The southeast corner?
I'm sorry, did I get that right? The corner, yeah, the rear south corner. You see how the wetlands look at,
It looks like.
where the steps are, leaving the steps
On the
out for a
corner of the
second.
house, and I'm judging this by looking at the side yard setback,
Right.
it's probably around 10 feet to the wetlands.
Planning?
Are we ready to hear from the planning department?
Yes.
Thank you.
Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department again. So this parcel is located on the west side of Beach Avenue in Amagansett. The project before the board is to construct a new 996 square foot, two-story residence with a 100 square foot second-story balcony, entry steps, walkway, driveway, dry wells, and new sanitary system, and to clear up to the edge of wetlands on the parcel. This property is extremely encumbered by significant wetlands covering the back half of the parcel, which extend onto the extensive wetlands system on the town-owned property to the west. Beach Hampton has low elevations and a high groundwater table and is set within the Double Dunes natural area of East Hampton. The wetlands on the parcel and within jurisdiction extend well beyond the limits of the parcel. These wetlands can be expected to provide the same benefits as any quality freshwater wetlands, especially the attenuation of floodwaters. The wetlands on this property and surrounding wetlands contain high diversity of obligate wetland species like cranberry, which are indicative of high soil saturation throughout the year, including the growing season. The planning department had recommended denial of this application in 2022, which the ZBA denied, and is again recommending denial of the current application. In the planning department's 2022 assessment of the project, it was stated that, quote, if the applicants were proposing a smaller residence, which met better wetland setbacks and removed the need for coverage variance, but still necessitated pyramid variances in order to move further from wetlands, the planning department could consider that a reasonable relief in order to limit the impacts on the natural features, end quote. The current application has reduced the size of the proposed residence by 266 square feet and eliminated the coverage variance, but still requires significant wetland setback variances in addition to the required pyramid variances. The application before the ZBA requires some of the most substantial variances the board will see in some time. The residence may only meet a setback of 2.8 feet to the edge of wetlands, which will have substantial impacts on the wetlands directly adjacent to the improvements. Clearing of the wetlands itself has been eliminated since the last application, but still requires nearly 100% variance for the required clearing, which encompasses nearly all of the upland portion of the property. The planning department still feels that a 996 square foot residence is an inappropriate size when considering that there is no buffer between the structures and the wetlands, and the best location for the sanitary system is only 37.1 feet from the same wetlands. This structure will undoubtedly have unnecessary impacts on these wetlands, both during the construction period and over the long-term existence of a residence. The severity of the constraints of the parcel are extreme due to the small lot area, narrow width, and the extent of the wetlands themselves. Consequently, the property is best suited for a smaller residence in order to maximize setbacks and retain as much of a buffer between the wetlands and improvements as practical. The proposed development is simply an untenable level of development close to sensitive wetlands, which will have substantial negative impacts on the wetlands through the construction of the residence, elimination of any buffer to wetlands, runoff generated from the parcel, addition of sanitary system less than a third of the required setback, and reasonable expectation of long-term clearing encroachment into wetlands given the half-a-foot clearing setback that's proposed. The planning department feels that more must be done in order to reduce the impacts that a structure of this size would have on the surrounding wetlands. The applicants have pushed the residents to the reduced 6.5-foot setback from the southern property line in order to better fit the proposed residence against the wetland setback and fit the sanitary system treatment tank between the residence and the leaching field. Being such a non-conforming lot to lot width and proposing a 2-story structure, which is required to meet FEMA first floor elevation standards of 12 feet, the pyramid nonconformity is also substantial on the property. Some pyramid nonconformity is certainly expected on a nonconforming property. However, when coupled with the size of the residence, the nonconformity with the wetland setback, and tight fit of the sanitary tank, it gives the impression of simply maximizing the size of the improvements rather than requesting dimensional setbacks in order to minimize natural resources setbacks. The building plans note pyramid nonconformities along the midpoint of the dwelling of approximately 12.48 feet to the southern property line and approximately 12.32 feet to the northern property line. Because of the flat pitched roof line, the required FEMA first floor elevations, nonconforming lot width, and low property elevations, the pyramid variance requests are considerable. The planning department does not feel that that a path forward for this parcel that does not very likely include some pyramid relief. However, relief should be granted in conjunction with increased setbacks and reduced impacts on wetlands as part of the reasoning for granting such significant pyramid relief. Additionally, the applicants included a cut and fill estimate, but have not provided any proposed grading, which is noted in their cut and fill estimates. The plan calls for 238.5 cubic feet of excavated material to be placed along the front of the house to create a gradual slope and level walkway, with any residual fill being distributed between the foundation piles. Any regrading of the parcel, and then within such close proximity to wetlands, has the potential to impact runoff on and around the property and should be part of the record so that the final conditions are understood ahead of the determination. Ultimately, this project, while reduced since the last application, remains too large for the constraints of the property with no significant mitigation to offer. The project does not meet the minimum variance necessary and could be reduced in size to gain a similar benefit without needing to encroach onto the wetlands and allow for some level of buffer between the structures and the wetlands. The footprint of the entire residence must be reduced in order to match the severe constraints of the property, and the second story of the residence could also be reduced even further in order to not require such significant pyramid variances. In the ZBA's 2022 denial determination, the board found that the project did not match the constraints of the property, would have long-term impacts on the wetland, and was best suited for a smaller residence to maximize setbacks and retain as much of a buffer as practical. The board found that the proposed use was not suitable for the location and was not in character with the neighborhood, particularly with regard to visibility, scale, and overall appearance, and that the project cannot be constructed without undue disturbance of disruption of important natural features. The board needs to determine if the newly proposed project addresses those concerns raised in 2022. The planning department believes that if approved, the proposed project would be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood because of substantial variances requested. Allowing structures to be constructed in such close proximity to wetlands without exhausting every possibility for alternative designs is a very poor precedent. It could be utilized on other parcels in Beach Hampton area to reduce setbacks and encroach further onto sensitive wetlands habitat, degrading the quality of those wetlands and greatly reducing the ability for the wetlands in the area to attenuate floodwaters, which already plague the neighborhood. It would be a change in the character of the neighborhood, and the board's past practices to approve the proposed project when there are reasonable alternatives which could meet better setbacks with reduced impacts. Finally, the project will undoubtedly have a negative impact on the wetlands, dune land, and beach vegetation on the parcel, with almost no beach vegetation left after construction and significant construction proposed up to the edge of the wetlands on the property. This project will have substantial short and long-term impacts on the wetlands and in the area that cannot adequately be mitigated and should be reduced in scope and size. And the question was brought up, how can it be smaller? Well, the town code minimum for a residence is 600 square feet. The board has granted a few 600 square foot houses on extremely constrained property, one on Ocean Lane, not far from this property. Clark, I think, is the name of that one. Again, very, very constrained with wetlands, and they got the minimum. I think slightly more than that, but it was like 650 or something like that. They even mentioned when they were saying they couldn't make it any smaller, and then went on to say that the bedrooms on the second floor are actually larger than the minimum of the town code. They're 125, not 100. So, I mean, right there, they could be smaller. 600 square feet is the minimum. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's required for this property, but I think that's probably closer to what is more appropriate for the constraints of the lot. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Tyler?
Just quickly, in the front of the house, obviously we have a driveway and there's a septic field and stuff like that, but is there still an opportunity for some amount of re-veg on the property, even if it's beach grass or just some?
Yeah, minimally over the sanitary system. Obviously, it's a
Right.
shallow, super shallow leaching field. So yeah, they
Is that
might.
something that we could, I don't know, build into a?
Yeah, you could condition that, the L areas able or re-veg with beach grass or something like that.
Right. And I don't know if you can't answer this question, but what would be obviously we're never going to get this house moved much further forward, but if it were to made small, like where does the distance from the wetland versus 2.8 feet become?
I didn't do any analysis as far as if it was a 300 square foot
And then
footprint where that
just
would.
lastly, the house to the south that's been referenced, the one, I guess 48, right, yeah. Do we know what the wetland setbacks were?
I don't have
House.
that offhand.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the application? Come forward, please. Could you give your name for the record, and I will swear you in?
What? Up
right
here,
there.
up there.
Laura Mitchell.
We'll pull the mic
Do you
down
affir-
to you a little bit. I'm sorry.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay, I have lived on Beach Avenue for 42 years. I live in the house directly across the street. My house was in one of the pictures that he showed. I'd like to comment that he mentioned there are, I don't know, 20 or so lots that are 40 feet wide. On those lots, there are only single-story houses. Nothing is 2 stories. And a 2-story house would block my light across the street. There's very few 2-story houses on the street altogether. I don't know why this man who's owned this land for 52 years has waited until now to try to build something that is totally, will look out of place and is unrealistic. The other thing, he talks about it being a modular house. Our road is very small. The size of truck that would have to get down our road, and I don't know what position it would need to be in to drop a house on this land. It couldn't be that way. I mean, it's barely 2 cars can pass each other. I mean, it's unrealistic that you could have a truck that big that would be able to maneuver in this area to drop a house on the pilings. I think that should be definitely taken into consideration. I mean, we have had traffic problems every time anybody does any modifications. It's a nightmare. Everybody's parking all over every place, the road's blocked, and this would certainly fall into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Rick, would you like to summarize?
I'll wrap this up. Richard Whalen again for the applicant, Julian Mazursky Jr. Couple of comments with regard to what Tyler said. In the September 18th, 2013 decision, that's just about 12 years ago, involving 20 Beach Avenue, and I think this had to do with an addition, so it's not exactly what we're doing. The zoning board stated that due to the proximity of lots in the Beach Avenue neighborhood, most, if not all, second floor additions, they were dealing, I believe, with an addition, not a two-story house, will require permit law variances. The reality is on Beach Avenue, the predominant way that you build, Tyler talked about setting precedent. The precedent is when you want to build a lot down there, you need variances, multiple variances. Not all lots have wetlands. Those on the east side, I think, are a little bit less constrained. Those on the west side that back up to the town property, they have more wetland constraints. There are lots kind of going back up the hill towards Bluff Road that are above any wetlands. But pyramid law variances are a virtual necessity. The number of lots, by the way, is not 20. The number of lots that are 40 feet wide in the subdivision is 10. That's out of 41. So that's still about a quarter of the lots are 40 feet wide. Many others are only 60 feet wide. Okay, you need pyramid law variances, you need wetland variances. That's the nature of Beach Avenue. In terms of disturbance to the neighborhood, as the previous speaker just said, trucks that carry modular homes have to be street legal. When I was down there posting the sign, there were utility trucks working. There was somebody working on a house renovation. I had to drive all the way down the end to turn around. I'm not going to turn around somebody's driveway. It's right. It's not easy to maneuver down that. That's what happens on a narrow private road. Every time somebody builds, it becomes a congestion area. We can certainly get a modular house in there if that's the only concern. As I said, the reality is that the house can't be made smaller. When Tyler talks about ways to make this, he's ignoring the code. Okay, if you want us to stay out of the wetlands, we have to build 2 stories. If we have to build 2 stories, we're going to have significant permit law setbacks. If we want to build on 1 story, we have to encroach into the wetlands. We are entitled to 2 bedrooms. We are required to have another room in the house. That's not a bedroom, a kitchen, or a bathroom. Those are all requirements. The last thing I want to say is Tyler brought up 9 Ocean Lane. He said the zoning board approved the house in Ocean Lane, 600 square feet in gross floor area, right, on 2 stories, and you did. I was not involved in that project. I think it was approved in like 2008, 2009, something like that. But a couple of years ago, I represented the current owner of the property. He wanted to move his bedroom wall out by 18 inches because his partner could not get out of bed without climbing over him, literally. And the zoning board approved it. But as a result of that, I've been in the house and I have the floor plans. And you know how it got approved at 600 square feet in 2008 or thereabouts? Illegally. You didn't grant any relief. That house does not comply with the design standards that I told you in 255-11-67. It does not have another room that's not a bedroom, and the 2 bedrooms in that house are not 100 square feet each. The second floor, including the stairs and the bathroom, is only 300 square feet GFA. So the answer to the question is how they did that, and I'm not blaming any of you, and I don't know what the applicant's attorney knew at the time, doesn't matter. And they were filling wetlands, so there was a great incentive to minimize. But they weren't near wetlands, they were filling a freshwater wetland. So they had a great incentive to minimize things. But the truth of the matter is, that house does not comport with zoning.
The board never approved that house.
The zoning board did.
Article 7, yeah.
They did approve that house.
Anyway.
All right, let's move on.
Addition. You're talking about 2
Addition
different
we
things.
did.
9 Ocean Lane.
Right,
9 Ocean Lane, the 2-story
No, I
mini
know.
house.
Yeah, it was-
Okay.
That doesn't comply with zoning. So anyway,
Yeah.
we can't make the house smaller. A denial amounts to a taking of our property, and we all know where that's going to go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Member Marion, can we make a motion to close the
Yes,
public hearing and
of
record?
course. Thank you. Let me just get my, where's my, oh, hold on, thank you. No, I just need the tax, but I need the, sorry. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Sorry.
I got it.
All right.
I know, I got it.
Rick,
Sure.
what was the one, your comment about I've noticed this and I want to get ahead of this before it becomes a problem with the scenic easement. If this is approved and there's a scenic easement, the houses can't be 10 feet from this. Structures have to be more than 10 feet from the scenic.
Well, not all fences are exempted from that, but the house has to be 10 foot from the scenic easement. Now, if the house predates the scenic easement, then it's grandfathered. So all I'm saying is asking that you allow us to make the the filing of the acceptance of the scenic easement a condition of a C of O. In other words, the house would be built already before this. And then, because there are situations that exist there that where, the structure came in before the scenic easement was granted.
Yeah.
That way we don't put the building inspector in a quandary. He's like, well, okay, you want a building permit, but you have a scenic easement and you're within 10 feet of the scenic.
I see.
The one other thing I'll just say about conditions, because remember Marion brought this up, one of the recommended conditions in the planning department memo is replanting any disturbed areas with beach grass. We'll plant anything that doesn't have a structure on it with beach grass. The only structures are the house, the stairways, and the parking area. Everything else that's, to be vegetated, we're happy to plant that with beach grass.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would we
Member
need-
Mary?
Yes, so, I'm sorry, just on that, would we need a square footage for re-veg as a condition of, or we can figure that out another time? Okay,
Anything that's not total coverage.
Right,
okay.
It's basically beach grass everywhere except for the driveway.
exactly.
Okay, all right, very good. So in the matter of Julian J. Mizerski III, 44 Beach Ave, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-175-3-10, I make a motion to close the hearing and close the record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you.
Good night, Rick. We'll move on to our work session for tonight, and we'll go to the minutes of approval.
Oh, okay, good.
So you ready?
Well, yeah, because it's taking a little bit.
Yeah, taking forever. Yeah, exactly.
Member Berger, are you ready to make a motion?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes from Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur.
And I'd like to make another motion to approve the draft minutes from the special zoning board meeting on Monday, December 2nd, 2025.
Second.
Concur.
Vice Chairman Johan, would you like to adjourn the meeting, please?
I would, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals on January 6th, 2026 at, let me check the time, 8:40 PM.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.